Just imagine what would happen to the other students if a real Shaolin warrior suddenly walked into an ordinary school. That's the setup for the story we're diving into today. Our tale begins with a boy named Li, who had grown up since birth inside a Shaolin monastery, trained day and night in the art of Kung Fu. One morning, Li walked into the temple and bowed before it, quietly asking for forgiveness, because what he was about to attempt might not go as smoothly as he hoped. This was the day of his final trial. The first challenge came without warning. A warrior lunged at him from the side, and though the sudden strike caught Li off guard, he steadied himself and fought back. The warrior hurled him against a wall, but Li twisted in midair, landed on his feet, and countered with a flurry of strikes that brought the fight to a swift end. Next came a swordsman, and once again Li's skill proved more than enough to send him to defeat. Then came the toughest test of all, a warrior sitting silently in meditation. Li tried to approach without making a sound, but the warrior heard him coming and flung his prayer beads at a nearby mirror. The beads ricocheted straight into Li's eyes, and he was slammed to the ground before he even knew what hit him. Just as the warrior moved in to finish him off, Li slipped free at the last second, and the two clashed in a fierce back-and-forth battle. In the end, it was Li who came out on top. He returned to the temple, bowed his head in respect, and walked out. His teacher had one piece of news waiting for him. Out of everyone who had taken the trial, Li had shown the most promise, and that earned him a rare opportunity, a spot at a school in the city. He would be living there with a family of 3, 2 children and their father, a scientist who happened to be an old friend of Li's teacher. With that, Li set off toward his new life in the city. At his new school, Li met a 15-year-old boy named Fang, a talented taekwondo athlete. Fang's younger sister, Shan Shan, adored her brother deeply and ran the school's taekwondo club, always watching his matches closely and pointing out what he could improve. Then there was Yu, a boy who thought about nothing but food and could eat like nobody's business. Yu had a sister too, Lan, and the 4 of them, Fang, Shan Shan, Yu, and Lan, had grown up as close friends living right around the corner from one another. It was with Yu and Lan's household that Li would now be staying. Their father, Dr. Han, poured himself into his work, spending long hours in his lab ever since his wife had passed away years earlier. At the moment, he was building a highly sensitive device, one that had caught the attention of a dangerous gang running the city streets. When Dr. Han called home, Lan wasn't thrilled to hear from him, since he barely ever made it back. He promised he'd come see them soon and asked them to open a package he'd already sent over. Hidden inside that gift box was the very device the gangsters were after. Right around then, Li knocked on the door, and Lan welcomed him in, showing him to his new room. But while that was happening, the gang cornered Dr. Han and took him hostage. Their leader, Larry, threatened him and demanded the device. Dr. Han insisted no such device even existed. What he was actually building, he explained, was an AI system that would let his kids hear their late mother's voice again through a small robotic companion. Larry wasn't buying it. He pulled up the security footage, discovered the device had already been shipped to the house, and sent 2 of his men to retrieve it, their very first assignment, which had them buzzing with excitement. The 2 disguised themselves in some rather ridiculous outfits and staked out Lan's house. One wanted to break in that same night, but the other pointed out it'd be smarter to wait until the kids left for school and slip in during the day. Back at the house, Li was settling into life in the city. Watching Lan cheer on a taekwondo match sparked his own curiosity about the sport. That night, he and Yu got into it over a video game, bickering at first before ending up enjoying it together. Meanwhile, in her room, Lan finally opened her gift, a small panda-shaped keychain. She had no idea it was actually a pen drive carrying her father's research. When she pressed the button, the panda asked for a password. Confused, she blurted out, "What kind of password is this?" And without meaning to, she just set that exact phrase as the password. Once activated, the panda spoke back in an AI-generated voice modeled after her mother. The next morning, Li, Yu, and Lan headed out together for their first day of school. The 2 goons spotted them leaving and were ready to make their move until one of them noticed the panda charm dangling from Lan's bag. They quickly adjusted their plan and began trailing the group. Along the way, Lan introduced Li to Fang. Seizing a moment, one of the goons snatched the panda charm and bolted, Lee caught sight of him instantly and, using his speed, ran the thief down in seconds. Fang jumped in to help, and together they gave the goon a proper beating. Still, he wriggled free and made another run for the panda, only for the whole group to catch up, stuff him into a trash bin, and send him rolling down the street. Once inside the classroom, Lee's new classmates couldn't believe their eyes, an actual Shaolin warrior sitting among them. They peppered him with silly questions. Could he even get married? Would he show off some moves? Could he do it just once? Eventually, the teacher stepped in and told them kung fu demonstrations belonged in recess, not class time. During PE, the coach announced a fitness assessment coming up the following month, warning that anyone who failed wouldn't move on to the next grade. Yu instantly panicked. Carrying his extra weight made even walking a challenge for him. When the class was asked to run 100 meters, Lee had already finished 2 full laps before most of the others completed one. In push-ups, he blew past 100 while his classmates could barely manage 2. And he even switched to doing them one-armed, just to keep things interesting, leaving everyone stunned. Then came the high jump, an effortless feat for Lee, while poor Yu tumbled face first before he even got off the ground. Elsewhere, Dr. Han remained tied to a chair, Larry pelting him with golf balls to keep him rattled. That night, the 2 goons crept back into the house. Lee spotted them first and tried hiding behind a toy to scare them off, but they noticed him and struck before he could react. When Lan walked in, the pair grabbed the panda and fled. She told Lee and Yu everything that had happened, but neither of them took her seriously, assuming she was joking. As it turned out, the goons had grabbed the wrong item, entirely a perfume bottle shaped just like the panda charm. With his buyer expecting the real device within 3 days, Larry's patience snapped. He hurled golf balls at his 2 hapless henchmen and ordered them to bring back the actual device. No more mistakes. The following day, the whole school gathered to watch Fang compete in a taekwondo match. Lee and Shanshan sat behind 2 oddly dressed girls chatting away who were, in fact, the same 2 goons in disguise, spotting the real panda charm on Lan's bag and waiting for their opening. Right then, Lee challenged Fang to a match of his own, and the crowd rushed forward to watch. With everyone's attention elsewhere, the goons tried to grab the charm, only for one of their wigs to get tangled and give them away. Meanwhile, the match between Lee and Fang turned into an intense, evenly matched contest, so close that both fighters agreed to call it a draw. The moment the crowd turned back around, they recognized the 2 intruders and swarmed them. But the goons grabbed the young girl as a hostage, threatened her, and escaped with the device. The kids rushed straight to the principal's office and called the police, laying out everything that had happened. Lee blamed himself, convinced that if he hadn't challenged Fang to that match, Lan's bag would never have been left unguarded. His friends reassured him it wasn't his fault at all. With the device finally in hand, Larry tried running it on his computer, only to hit the password wall. He brought in hired programmers to crack it, but an entire day passed without any progress. Furious, he happened to glance at a message on Dr. Han's phone, Lan, hoping her father would make it home for her birthday. Posing as Dr. Han, Larry replied, promising he'd be there. The next day, Lan and her friends busied themselves getting ready for her birthday, eventually leaving her alone at home while they went out to grab gifts. A message arrived saying her father had arrived outside. The moment she stepped out, she was seized and thrown into a van. Lee and the others witnessed the abduction and gave chase on their bicycles, eventually tracking the van to Dr. Han's own lab, where Lan broke down in tears. Inside, Larry was locked in a tense argument with his business partner, since the deal was set for the next day and he still had no password. Losing his temper, he held a knife to Lan's throat and demanded she give it up. Startled, she blurted out the very same phrase from before, and the device unlocked instantly. Outside, the 2 original goons were left guarding the hideout. Lee and Fang ambushed them and took them down in moments, but then found themselves facing Bradley, one of Larry's most dangerous fighters, who proved too much for the 2 of them to handle together. Inside, just as Larry's deal was about to go through, Yu slipped in unnoticed and quietly freed his sister and father. Dr. Han jumped straight into the fight against the remaining thugs. As Larry tried to make a run for it with the device, Dr. Han, Yu, and Lan worked together to stop him. Meanwhile, Lee managed to turn the tide against Bradley with Fang's help, finally bringing him down. Police arrived soon after and arrested the entire gang. In the end, the principal awarded medals to Lee and Yu for their courage.